Hello? Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. Very good afternoon. So I think it's lunchtime, but I'll try to wrap up very soon. Yeah. Yeah. So today we are going to see how we can manage Kubernetes clusters with easy policy management, also using AI tools. Yeah. This is a quick introduction about myself. I'm Lakshmanan Samynathan. I'm from Coimbatore, just 4 hours from here. So I mainly work with SRE in InfraCloud. I also deal with cloud architecture, DevOps, and Gen AI. I have over 18 years of experience in the IT industry. In last 6 years, I mainly focus on cloud technologies. So that's about myself. If you want to connect, you can scan. So this is the agenda. So we are going to see what is the issue with Kubernetes, basically, what are the security challenges, issues, and how we can solve those issues with the policy management tools. One such tool is Kyverno and why it is popular among the industry. And we also see how we can use AI tools like kubectl AI to improve our productivity. And we will see a short demo. Yeah. How many of you are using Kubernetes in production here? Yeah, so that's good. So how many of you here are SREs, DevOps engineers? Good. So before we start, I just want to set an analogy. Kubernetes as an airport, any international airport. Basically, both are very complex systems, lot of moving components. Also, they serve a lot of low workloads, serves millions of customers. So there is an analogy I want to set before we start. Yeah. So you can see, so the company called Red Hat, they do surveys across all the DevOps engineers, SREs, operation people every year. So as per the report from Red Hat last year, 9 out of 10 companies who are running Kubernetes in production having security issue. This number is not good actually. So this brings our attention more to security. Like, so for example, if you go to any international airport, if there is an issue like every 9 passengers out of 10, if they face any issue, will you prefer the international airport? Definitely no. Same way, we have to secure our Kubernetes while following the best practices. Yeah. So we saw that almost 90% of the Kubernetes clusters are having issues. So these are some root causes. The first thing is when you install Kubernetes, it is not secured by default. So it comes with a lot of default configurations. For example, when you create a namespace, when you create a pod, every pod in the namespace can talk to another namespace pod. So there is no default restriction. So that is one such example. So the number one reason for all these security incidents is, first one is misconfiguration. So you have to configure the Kubernetes properly. It's like when you buy a new phone, a new laptop, you are going to change the password. You are not going to use the default password. And you are going to put a phone cover or screen guard to protect your system. Same way, you cannot use Kubernetes as is. You have to configure properly. Kubernetes is very, very powerful, but with power comes more responsibility. It is very complex to handle. You need a lot of know-how, lot of learning curve to manage Kubernetes. Yeah, the number one reason is misconfiguration. For example, when you deploy any application in Kubernetes, it is going to use a certain memory and CPU. If you don't set the limit, it is going to consume. In some cases, like if you're running AI or ML applications, it might consume more memory, more CPU, which will prevent other parts in the same node to run. So it might block your system. It's just a single line of code we can prevent. Another one is over permissive access. Again, if I come to airport analogy, we are not allowed to go to every area in airport, right? We cannot go to runways just like that. So there is a particular RBAC or security protocol we need to follow. So by default, it is open. So you have to set proper security controls in Kubernetes. Another one is lack of policies. Like if you go to airport, there is no security check, there is no boarding pass validation at all. You can imagine the chaos. It will be very difficult to manage the airport. So we have to follow some set of rules. Another one is untrusted or unverified container images. So if you just pull some images from internet and use, you don't know what is cooking inside. So they might be adding some bots which will mine crypto or it might hack your system. So we don't know. So it's always better to use images from your secured container registries. Also, you need to sign the images like industries like healthcare, automobiles. Those they will require you to sign the images so that they can verify whether this image is created by yourself or not. Another one is speed over security. So security always comes last, right, in our SDLC process. So if you want to develop any software, most people don't consider security, they want to deliver. But once issues comes, they will spend more time in fixing the issue. So it's always better, you take it slow, but make sure security is included. So these are some misconfigurations which is causing all these incidents. So let us now see how we can prevent this. So that is where we come to policy management. So policies are nothing but when you go to airport, you have to follow certain rules, right? So you cannot take more liquid items, or you cannot take knife, all those stuff. So policies are nothing but 3 steps. So what you can do, what you cannot do, and then what you must do. It's very simple. So you can also go without policies, but you will get this situation within 5 minutes. So if you check any Kubernetes cluster which is exposed to internet, there are always bots or hackers scanning those systems, trying to exploit. So it's up to you. Yeah. So now we will see how Kubernetes is giving an option to enforce policies in your cluster. So there is a concept called admission controller. It is like the security or your help desk. When you go to the airport, they are going to first ask for your ID. Only after they verify your ID, they are going to admit you inside. Right? Similarly, Kubernetes has a concept of admission controller. So when you run kubectl apply, first it will go to API server, then it is going to check whether you are authorized person, whether your credentials are right. Only after that it will go to the admission controller where it is going to check whether this YAML file is valid, whether this YAML file is allowed to run. So those checkings will happen, and then if it is not proper, it is going to reject. And also in some cases, like in airport, if you go to airport with the luggage, they are going to attach some tag into your package, right? So you did not bring the tag, they will attach. They will, Kubernetes also can do mutation. Mutation means it will modify your request. Only after these 2 things are done, it will be sent to your etcd. That is where your Kubernetes database, right? So this is the mechanism available in Kubernetes, but by default, they don't have all the validations inbuilt. So you have to build your own. Or the companies, the products like Kyverno, OPA, they are the one already built their software. So you just need to use it. Yeah. Now we are coming to Kyverno. So Kyverno is a word from Greek. It means govern. So now here, anybody knows what is Kubernetes means in Greek? Anyone? Kubernetes is also a Greek word. No one. It means helmsman or captain of the ship. Yeah. So Kyverno is a Kubernetes native policy engines. So when I say Kubernetes, everybody uses Kubernetes knows YAML already, right? So you always see YAML, you live with YAML, you always live with YAML. So that means Kyverno also uses YAML to create policies. So you don't need to learn another new language. And with YAML and Kubernetes native, you can implement your policy also as a code, like infrastructure as code. You maintain policy also as a code. And as I mentioned, if you go with any other policy engines, like open policy agent, you have to learn a new language, which is overhead. And compared to other policy engines, it also comes with other powerful capabilities. Other policy engines, what it does usually is they will just validate and reject, like if I take OPA. But Kyverno comes with another features. It can also modify your request. It can also generate requests on the fly. And it can also help with supply chain security. So it will help to validate your container images. And it can also help to clean up the stale resources. Like if you have created some resources for testing, if you forget to delete, you can set policies. So periodically it will scan and delete the resources also. These are some highlights of the Kyverno tool. And by the way, this is a CNCF incubating project. So when we say incubating, it is still in adoption. Many organizations have started using, but still the majority of the organizations are using open policy agent because it came first. And this is developed natively for Kubernetes. but open policy agent is a general purpose tool. So there is some differences. Now we will see how Kyverno fits into the admission controller setup we saw earlier. So as I showed earlier, Kubernetes give a concept of admission controller. So here Kyverno runs as an admission controller. Even your OPA will run as admission controller. So when any request comes to Kubernetes API, it is going to send the request to Kyverno admission controller. That is where we define the rules, what is allowed, not allowed, and what you need to follow. Then it is going to check it, and all the rules will kick in. And it also have a webhook. Like basically, the Kyverno will run inside the Kubernetes itself, so it is not going outside of the Kubernetes. It also has some other features. Basically, these are custom resource definitions. If you use Kubernetes, you might be knowing it. And yeah, these are the features. You can create policies, you can create policy exemptions. Like always, whenever we have a policy, we have exemptions. Like in toll gate, VIPs are going, like government officials are going in a separate route without any checking. Those kind of stuff you can do. Also, it supports policy reports. It's not only about enforcing the policy, we also need a report for auditing so that we get the end-to-end picture. And we also have a background controller, which means it is not only applicable for the new workloads. If you already have workloads running, it is also going to scan those and then report. Like you already have a pod running, but somebody changed it to incorrect setting, so it's going to detect it. Yeah. Again, I'm coming back to the analogy. So I mentioned Kubernetes as an airport. Kyverno is basically your airport security management, where it is going to make sure only the valid passengers are, only the legal passengers are allowed, and it is going to check whether you bring proper baggage, you don't carry any threats, you don't carry any illegal items, all those stuff, right? So when we say validate, it is going to check your ID. First thing, if ID is not correct, you cannot even enter. Then mutate means it is going to generate the boarding. We are getting boarding pass generated in the airport, right? When you go to the check-in counter, it is not available when we enter, but it is going to generate. Generate means it's a new. Mutate means we are getting a boarding, our baggage tags. Generate means it's a new stuff we generate. Image verification is similar to validating your passport. So we do see uses of fake passport, fake boarding pass. So verifying the authenticity of your pass is image verification. Cleanup is nothing but I mentioned. If you have stale resources, Kyverno can help with cleanup also. So these capabilities are not available in any other policy engines. That's why it is becoming more popular. Yeah. So as I mentioned, there are multiple other policy engines. The policy.js also open policy engine. What differentiates Kyverno is, you can see from the stages of code commit till run, your container run, you can enforce policy at every stage. So Kyverno also come with the CLI, which you can give it to your developers. Also, you can put it in your CI/CD pipelines, where it is going to validate the policy at the early stage itself. We talk about shift left. This is how we will enforce shift left for developers. You don't need to wait till runtime to block the workloads. You can block at the beginning itself. And during build, it can help you to sign the images, also verify the images are signed properly. During runtime, it is going to validate. And after it is deployed, it is going to scan continuously in the background and then verify that even your existing workloads are meeting the policy standards. Yeah, so these are some areas Kyverno can be used. First one is automating your security. As I mentioned, these are just some limited use cases, but you can read more about Kyverno. There are a lot of use cases. First one is pod security. So when you talk about pod security, there are many things, like you cannot allow the Kubernetes pod to run as a root user. That is not good. Also, you need to you cannot allow many capabilities for the pod. There are many things about pod security. So using Kyverno, you can easily install it. Then, as I mentioned, image signing and verification. So you can sign the image. Then you can, before you use the image, you can verify whether it is signed by you or not. And it's also help with operations, right? If you offer namespace as a service, I think everybody might be aware what is Kubernetes namespace. It's basically a container for your team. If you offer namespace as a service, So whenever a new namespace is created, you have to create certain set of resources like resource quota, network policies, all those things you can create. So that can be automated and stay resources cleaner to save your cost. And coming to cost, if you want to control your workloads, not costing more, you can set resource limits and requests so that only the required amount of memory CPU is used to conserve the cost there. Also namespace quotas. So by default, namespace quotas are not implemented. So if you set a namespace quota like 2 GB for this namespace, it cannot exceed. Like when Kubernetes cluster is shared by multiple teams, you have to enforce this. So instead of doing those manually, you can define those policies in Kyverno and then it will take care of it. Yeah, now we will see the Kyverno policy structure. So every policy will have one or more rules, and every rule will have either match or exclude. So match means we are going to say to which resource we are going to apply this policy, whether it's a deployment or we can define. And exclude means we don't want to consider some resources for policy that we can define. And then as we see in the earlier slide, either you can validate, mutate, generate or verify image. So this is a sample policy. So this looks very familiar to all the people who use Kubernetes. It's very simple. You define the kind as cluster policy, just like how you define deployment. And then we go to rules. The rules is validate, read-only file system. Then it is going to match the pod. And next section we are seeing validate. It's a validate kind of policy. It is going to check whether all the pod running in your cluster is having security context set as read-only root file system. That means you cannot go into the pod and change the file system. It's very simple, like few lines of code. If I compare the same policy with OPA, you can see the stark difference, how many lines are coming. Also, it is a new language called Rego, which you need to learn. So if you already know YAML, you can immediately start with implementing policies in Kyverno. You don't have to go through all these hassles. Yeah, now we have seen how we can use Kyverno to implement policies, but now with the emergence of AI in recent times, the AI tools are created for all these purposes, right? All type of purposes, which can improve your productivity. One such tool we will see today is Kubectl AI. It is developed by Google. Basically, if you use this tool, you can directly talk to your cluster in natural language, like, hey, I want to create a pod, I want to delete this namespace. All this can be done using this AI tool. So, any questions? I'll go to the demo next. Have anybody used Kyverno? Who else is using OPA? How do you feel about OPA?
I wanted to learn a new language.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is what we are going to see in the demo. So first one is block risky images. I think everybody knows about latest images, right? It's the worst stuff out there. Latest means it will be today it might point to version 1 of latest, tomorrow it will be version 2. So you never know what is latest means. We never use latest in production. Next one is enforcing governance. So when you have multiple teams, we ask the teams to set a label for their team, right? But they don't follow. So you can enforce in a particular namespace. If you create the workload, it will be attached with this label, with the team name, and auto-generate network policies. So whenever a namespace is created, we are going to automatically generate. So, and how we can use Kubectl AI to boost productivity. Okay, the first policy I have is block latest tag. Basically, what it is going to do is, but you can see again. So this is the policy which I explained. The validate action is enforce. If you want to get started with Kyverno, you can also set it to audit. You don't want to block everybody. Like when you introduce a new policy in new production, you don't want to block. If you want to test, you can set it to audit. These are the rules. and it is targeting pod. The type is validate, and basically very simple. It is going to check if your container image is using the tag latest, then it is going to block. So to test this, I have two parts. One is a bad part, which is using latest. Another is good part, which is using a particular version of the container image. So this is my cluster. This is a kind cluster. So currently, if you see, there are no policies in my cluster. First, I am going to apply the policy. Yeah, I'm going to apply the policy. Now you see the policy is created. It's a cluster level policy, means it will apply to all the namespace. Now I am going to apply the bad part, which is using latest. So what will happen? Can anyone tell? If I apply the bad part, I can also show the bad part, which is using latest. Will it be allowed or not? Allowed. Let's see in action. It is not allowed because the policy is already captured. So it is also mentioning why it is not allowed. You are using latest. As simple as that. So you can. This is one security issue. Easily you can fix in 2 minutes in your cluster if you are not already using it. Now if I apply the good part, which is using a particular version, there is no issue. It is created, right? Yeah. Now I am coming to next policy. Now we are going to see a policy type of mutate. Mutate means it is going to modify your workload. If you don't follow some rules, I'm going to make sure I'll make you to follow, right? Kind of. So here what we are saying is for all the deployments in development namespace, if you don't come up with a label, team label, it is going to apply the label automatically. So that is the policy here. So it is mutate and it is patch strategic merge. So now I am going to apply this policy. Now you see that policy is created. Now I am going to create a new deployment. So the deployment does not have any labels. This is a deployment. You can see the metadata. There is no labels. I am not passing the label. I am deploying into development namespace. So I am not following the protocol, but let's see what happens. So now I created. Now I am going to query the deployment and see what labels are there. You can see Kyverno already added this automatically. So that is the power of mutate. If somebody is not following, you can make sure it's done before it's created. Yeah, so we saw two policies. Next one I want to show using AI. Yeah, so we have this tool called kubectl AI. Basically, this is how it works. You just install it and configure with your whatever LLM you prefer. You can also use local LLM, cloud LLM. Then you can instantly talk to your cluster in natural language. So you can ask it to list your namespaces, pods, whatever you want. It is going to translate that natural language into kubectl commands and execute on behalf of you. One security feature it has is if it's going to delete any resource, it's going to ask you permission. Only then it will do. So let us create a policy using this tool. So you just need to enter kubectl AI. Then I'm going to paste a prompt. So I'm asking the kubectl AI to create a new policy. So new policy which will generate new names. Whenever new namespace is created, it is going to automatically generate network policy. So network policies are nothing but between namespaces you can control the traffic. So by default, everything is allowed between namespaces. But this policy will be blocking that. So as you can see, I told the one line, then it is going to start thinking. It is going to think like I need to create a cluster policy and then I need to include blah blah blah. Then it is also giving the particular YAML to you. So you can copy paste or It is also asking, do you want me to apply? See how helpful AI is nowadays. You can also, first you need to verify this, right? Again, when you use AI tools, caution, don't use blindly. If you don't know what it is bringing, then you are in trouble. So the basics is always important, as mentioned in the initial sessions. Without basics, AI is useless. So always focus on basics. If you already know what is this cluster policy, what it does, then it's very easy. It makes your job much easier. So now I am going to say apply. Okay, now it applied. Also it is telling how it is working, how you can test it, right? But I want to test it manually, not with a tool. So now I am going to my cluster. I am going to network policies. You can see all the namespaces, there are no network policies. Now I am going to create a new namespace. As soon as I create a new namespace, the policy will kick in and it is going to generate the network policies. You can see the magic, Kyverno magic. So, and I mentioned, right, this is, Kyverno is keep on watching your Kubernetes cluster in the background. So even if somebody tried to delete the policy, network policy, it is going to make sure it's recreating again. So it's like your CCTV surveillance. It's always watching your system in the background. So that's how you can secure your system. Nobody can bypass this kind of setup. Yeah, that's about the demo. I will also show some useful materials. Yeah, this kubectl AI is you can use for all the purposes to interact with your Kubernetes cluster. Yeah, and one good feature is Kyverno also give a playground. So you don't even need a Kubernetes cluster to test the policies. And there are a lot of policies already written. You can go and explore more, and you can put the policy here. You can generate a copy paste sample resource YAML here. You can directly test in this playground. It's very useful feature. And if you go to the policy section, as you can see, there are already 477 policies already created. So most likely the case will be like whatever policies you need will be already there. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just go through and explore. You will find a lot of policies. If you don't find the policy, then it's always an option to you can create your own policies very easily. Yeah, that's about the session. I will now open to QA. So we also have a video session from our company where we talk about how Kyverno can be policy can be automated using another tool. If you're interested, you can go ahead and watch. But now I'm open to questions.